Welcome back to HUMN. In this video, we're going to be looking at the rowing machine. Now, I'm going to hedge a good bet. If you are following this channel because you're interested in fitness, you have been on or seen someone using one of these things. We're going to break down everything about the machine, what it's made up of, how you use it, and how you get the most out of it. Ella, what are your favourite aspects of the rowing machine?
Do you know what? I don't really like rowing.
We're also going to change Ella's mind on enjoying the rowing machine.
I find it very physically taxing, as you probably should, but I just think it's exhausting. So
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Having longer levers does make this easier.
I'm 5'2".
We're going to show you and coach you through some key points so that it is less painful and more effortless. So, starting with the machine, notable pieces to look at. We have the fan and the damper at one end. That is going to be our resistance on the machine. So, starting off, we want to have it around about the 5 to 6 mark. Okay, so if you're one of those people that puts it on 10 straight away, don't do that. Bring it back down 5 or 6. Next, we have the handle, the chain, and the foot pads. So Ella has got the foot pads set up to her feet. We want to make sure that when she does put her foot in it, that strap is going to be secure through the middle of her foot to keep it in position. And then lastly, we have the seat, which will travel back and forward. Depending on how well maintained your rower is, that might be a little bit sticky, but our one is perfect. So, I'm going to get Ella to pop her feet into the foot straps, which we have already adjusted. She's going to pull them tight. And from this position, we're going to talk about 3 key areas of the stroke. So what we want to look at first is, can you do the movement efficiently before we talk about anything else? So the first part is called the catch, and that's going to be the bottom position. So I'm going to get Ella to grab the handles and start in the catch. So what we should see here is feet flat on the pads, so we shouldn't see the heel lifted at all here. We want feet flat, we want a bend in the knee. I'm going to see if Ella can pull her bum a little bit closer to her calves. We're going to load that position up. She's got straight elbows. She's doing a very good job of keeping her chest and spine stacked over her hips, and she's got a neutral spine. She's not prawning forward and curving forward. And a little extra coaching point I like to use with my clients is, send your gaze over the monitor. So that's going to keep you up tall. So this is the catch. You're always going to end up back in this position. If we then look at the drive, what's now going to happen is Ella's going to keep her torso in the same position, but she's going to start to extend at the knees. Okay, pause there. So with this driving position, we're going to start to extend at the knees. As they're almost fully extended, she's then going to hinge at the hips with a slight lean back of the torso and finish with our arm pull, which finishes at the sternum, the bony part at the bottom of your chest. From this position, that is the drive, okay? So we're fully extended at the knees, the hips have hinged, we've pulled back through the elbows. As soon as this finishes, we then move into the recovery. So Ella's going to start by punching her hands out, which is then going to trigger the torso to come back. And then we're just going to recoil back into that position. So everything's going to happen in reverse order. So if you go back there for me, hands punch, go slow motion, pause, hands first, hips second, chest is over, then the knees can bend. So we want to just come back in the same order. I'm going to get Ella to do a few strokes for me. She's just going to go through catch, drive, recover, catch, drive, recover. Now, you told me a really good coaching point before we started this video about foot position on the way back. What was that? So,
it's really, it's helpful, but it's also quite important. You want to try and maintain a full foot on the foot panel, because imagine you're replicating a deadlift. You're going for your drive. If you're in your catch position and your heels are up off the foot pad, you're driving off the ball of your foot. Would you do a deadlift like that? Can you imagine picking up a barbell, trying to get as much power as you can? You're going to get way more power through your drive, being able to push through the entirety of your foot. So try not to come into your catch and lift your heels up off the foot pad.
So what we want to practice is that pattern first, okay? So don't worry about the screen, don't worry about the pace or the power, we want to practice the pattern. So subconsciously, that catch, drive and recover is just happening. Every time you get on the rower, doesn't matter if you're looking over there, you're tired, you're fresh, you're doing this pattern over and over and over again. Step number 2, we're looking at Ella's coaching point. We're now talking about putting more power into each drive phase, and that will then translate into the stats and the metrics that come up on screen. So when we are looking at the stats and the metrics, the rowing machine gives us lots of data. So it can give us information on calories per hour, distance per hour, which would be reflective in a split 500 meter time. It also tells us about our watts, which is our power output. But secondary, which most people miss out on, is the stroke rate. Now this is another important learning part for beginners and intermediates, because it allows us to manage our intensity, okay? So when we're looking at stroke rate, this is the amount of strokes that we are doing in a minute. So if Ella was a beginner and she's racing to try and get something done, she's probably gonna be doing a lot of strokes to get that done, but it doesn't necessarily mean she's gonna get there any quicker than if she was a little bit more advanced and she was slowing her stroke rate down, but she was doing it more efficiently. So we're gonna look at those two types now. So Ella's gonna show us first a high stroke rate with an inefficient technique. So she's moving back and forward. She's doing a lot of strokes, but she's not necessarily going anywhere on the machine. If we then flip that around to a more efficient stroke rate where she's doing less strokes, she's giving out more power per stroke and she's doing less of them. Now, what we've gone through is someone learning the pattern, to then managing their intensity with the stroke rate, to then an intermediate actually starting to turn that slower stroke rate into a bigger power output. Now on screen, what we can see is the data there. If we're looking at power output, we're going to want to look at 500 meter split time, we're going to look at calories per hour, and we're going to look at watts. We can relate that back to workouts that we're doing, and essentially if we're doing something that's distance based or calorie based, we can predict that we're going to complete that task quicker the higher our calorie per hour is, or the lower our 500 meter split time is. So now that you're equipped with a more efficient technique and a better power output and understanding of the machine, Ella and I are going to share some of our top tips on how you can get the most out of this rowing machine.
My top tips, I have two. Number one being just looking after the kit, making sure you're staying safe, everyone around you staying safe. We don't want to just let go of the handle, sorry rower, let it bash into the top part. You want to make sure you're always returning your handle into its hook. That way your kit will stay nice and fresh and you're not going to hit anyone, it's not going to fling out and hurt anybody. Second point, along similar lines, as you are rowing, you don't want to be able to hear the chain. So if I row pretty inefficiently, I can't, I'm too good at rowing, but if you can hear your chain moving as you row, it probably means that your form isn't as efficient as it can be. You want that to be silent. So you shouldn't be able to hear the chain clattering around.
Smooth chain, safe re-rack, I like it. Two key points. My key point, if you hook your feet back up there, I like using the rower within competition setting. When I'm working hard with my teammates, we're going for a fast distance or we're going for a fast calorie target, but we're changing in and out and we want to be efficient. The last thing that you want to do is get stuck messing around with these things. So my key point is the quickest way to get out of these straps, and all you need is one finger. Okay, so where these straps are, you've got the black buckle. All you got to do is simply put your finger inside the buckle and push out. Your teammate can then kick up and get out nice and quick.
Straight back in as well.
One finger straight back in, boom, you're strapped in, ready to rock and roll. So for quick exit and entry, index finger inside the buckle, boom. If you found these tips useful and if you gained some new knowledge from that video, please like, share and subscribe, ring that bell. And if you've got any questions for Ella on our suspect rowing technique, leave them in the comments.
Hey.